Let's talk about the typical timeline for projects. In general, I try and shoot for something like an 8 to 12 week sprint. And let me tell you, 8 is really pushing it. 12 is a lot more comfortable. Now note, this isn't a 6, 8 month, 12 month process. Nobody's waiting that long to make a decision. Remember, if our job in the behavioral part is to find ways that, can be scaled, that people can choose from, if we're the people that make the menu, but other people are our diners, well, nobody's going to wait 12 months for you to make a menu. You have to get to a reasonable menu in a reasonable amount of time. So, about how long is that going to take? Well, look, all of these are fungible. It depends on the project, it depends on lots of variables, it depends on what's going on. In general, I'm taking the first sort of week or two to get that behavioral statement done. Usually because, at least in my experience, you're going to have to run more than one behavioral statement workshop because people have to chew on it a little bit in the meantime. There has to be room to resolve disagreement, maybe even look into some things and do a little research. So usually I'm kicking off in that first week and then trying to get to a finalized one by the end of week 2. So then we need to be into the insights phase. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, roughly a 4-week insights phase, 3-week insights phase. Why is this so quick? A lot of people that do research will be like, wow, that doesn't seem like very long. Why? A couple of reasons. One, remember the frequency on which we're doing this. Quant and Qual start on day 1, and they're sharing insights by the end of day 1. Hey, this is what I saw in the data. This is what I heard in my interviews. Can you go look at those tomorrow? They're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The revolutions are very short. So if you think about a 3-week cycle, right, that's 15 work days. Well, if you're cycling every 2, that means you can get, 6 kind of cycles in there pretty handily and still have time to do some sort of, bringing together of that and some sort of boiling up at the end, right? So I try to recognize that there's more time in here than you think. What eats time in this cycle? Recruitment, getting access to these people. And so each of these phases is owned by a different kind of person. We're going to talk about the team in a second here. But while, the strategist is working on the behavioral statement, hey, if you're in the research side, quant researcher, that's your time to get your data cleaned, get all your data sources together in those first 2 weeks. Qualitative researcher, that's the time to be recruiting. Yeah, let's get that recruit done so that people are lined up and you can start the insights phase doing interviews on day 1. You want that sort of sense of urgency in other people. Even when other people are running their section, you want to be sort of prepping for yours. The nice thing here is nobody's running full speed the whole time, right? The idea is that you're sort of tick-tocking back and forth. So we do 2 weeks worth of strategy, 4 weeks-ish worth of research. Now we're up to 6 weeks. We're kind of halfway through. Design, you need to get this to kind of 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on how deep your designs are. I kind of break that down into, I'll do an initial brainstorm in week 1, right? Then I'll come back with, we need to do some combination of those. Then we need to do some down select maybe in week 2. And then in week 3, we're really doing our pilot planning. We're saying, of the things we down selected, how are we going to pilot them? And then now we're into the pilot, right? So we need 4 weeks of time to get this pilot done. So let's think about our 12-week calendar. We got 2 weeks off for the strategy phase, 4 weeks down, we're in for insights. So we're into week 7, 7, 8, 9, we're in design, 10, 11, 12. We ran out of time. So you get that 12, 14 weeks, you really got to crunch, really got to squeeze, right? So maybe you can get a little more out of your design phase. Do that in 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks. Maybe you do your recruit really well and you do insights, and you're getting that into 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks. Every week matters. You have to see this urgency, feel this urgency. If your team does not feel urgency, sustainable urgency, right? You can't be sprinting all out. But if you're not at least kind of jogging, you're not going to get there. You need that kind of focus. And then you can take some time after the project sprint, recap, recharge, fix what didn't work, go into the next one.